Listening Fill in the Blanks.
Let's start.
Myth, a symbolic narrative, usually of unknown origin and at least partly traditional, that ostensibly relates actual events, and that is especially associated with religious belief. It is distinguished from symbolic behavior, cult, ritual, and symbolic places or objects, temples, icons. Myths are specific accounts of gods or superhuman beings involved in extraordinary events or circumstances in a time that is unspecified, but which is understood as existing apart from ordinary human experience. The term mythology denotes both the study of myth and the body of myths belonging to a particular religious tradition. Colloquially known as the Tube, the London Underground was the first rapid transit system in the world, having begun operations in 1863. More than 3 million passengers travel on the Underground every day, amounting to over 1 billion passenger journeys per year for the first time in 2006. The Underground has 11 lines, most of which connect the suburbs to central London and together form a dense network in central London, linking major railway stations, central business areas and icons. The Underground serves North London much more extensively than South London. This is the result of a combination of unfavourable geology, historical competition from surface railways and the historical geography of London, which was focused to the north of the River Thames. South London is served primarily by surface railways. The majority of London Underground's route length is actually on the surface rather than in tunnel.
The genetic theory is also undermined by results from Peter Hepper and his team at Queen's University in Belfast, Ireland. In 2000, the psychologists used ultrasound to show that by the 15th week of pregnancy, fetuses already have a preference as to which thumb they suck. In most cases, the preference continued after birth. At 15 weeks, though, the brain does not yet have control over the body's limbs. Hepper speculates that fetuses tend to prefer whichever side of the body is developing quicker, and that their movements, in turn, influence the brain's development. Whether this early preference is temporary or holds up throughout development and infancy is unknown. Genetic predetermination is also contradicted by the widespread observation that children do not settle on either their right or left hand until they are 2 or 3 years old.
Identify the causes. Jan Elsner, Melbourne psychologist who specializes in executive coaching, says thriving on a demanding workload is typical of senior executives and other high-potential business people. She says there is no one-size-fits-all approach to stress. Some people work best with high adrenaline periods followed by quieter patches, while others thrive under sustained pressure. We could take urine and blood hormonal measures and pass judgment of whether someone's physiologically stressed or not, she says. But that's not going to give us an indicator of what their experience of stress is and what the emotional and cognitive impacts of stress are going to be.
The problem arises not only from the scale and variety of the archaeological remains, but also from 2 other sources: the very varied natural and human threats to the resource, and the complex web of organizations with authority over, or interests in, the coastal zone. Human threats include the redevelopment of historic towns and old dockland areas, and the increased importance of the coast for the leisure and tourism industries, resulting in pressure for the increased provision of facilities such as marinas. The larger size of ferries has also caused an increase in the damage caused by their wash to fragile deposits in the intertidal zone. The most significant natural threat is the predicted rise in sea level over the next century, especially in the south and east of England.
Some educators and parents are suspicious of mother tongue-based teaching programs because
They worry that they take time away from the majority language. For example, in a bilingual program where 50% of the time is spent teaching through children's home language and 50% through the majority language, surely children won't progress as far in the letter? One of the most strongly established findings of educational research, however, is that well implemented bilingual programs can promote literacy and subject matter knowledge in a minority language without any negative effects on children's development in the majority language. Within Europe, the Foyer program in Belgium, which develops children's speaking and literacy abilities in 3 languages, their mother tongue, Dutch and French, most clearly illustrates the benefits of bilingual and trilingual education. See Cummins, 2000.
The repeating cycle of sand inching up the windward side to the dune crest, then slipping down the dune slip face allows the dune to inch forward, migrating in the direction the wind blows. As you might guess, all of this climbing then slipping leaves its mark on the internal structure of the dune. The image on the right shows fossil sand dune structure preserved in the Merced Formation at Fort Funston, Golden Gate National Recreation Area. The sloping lines, or laminations you see are the preserved slip faces of a migrating sand dune. This structure is called cross-bedding and can be the result of either wind or water currents. The larger the cross-bedded structure, however, the more likely it is to be formed by wind rather than water.
This is primarily achieved today through cavity wall insulation. Insulating bricks are built in 2 separate leaves, as they are cahiers in the trade. The gap between the inner and outer leaves of brickwork depends on the type of insulation used, but there should be enough space for a gap of 20 mm between the insulating material in the cavity and the 2 leaves on either side. The air in these gaps is an efficient insulator by itself. Cavity walls have IELTS replaced solid walls, because they are more resistant to rain penetration. Because 2 leaves are necessary, a strong brick manufacturing industry is essential, so that enough good quality insulating bricks are plentifully available.
Robbery may be defined as the unlawful, forcible taking of a victim's property from the person of the victim. Robbery is distinguished from other unlawful seizures of property, such as larceny and burglary, in that, 1. The property seized is taken directly from the person of the victim, as in a mugging, and, 2. There is involved the use or threat of force. Thus theft of property that occurs while a victim is asleep, a hospital patient, for example, would not constitute robbery because no force was used or threatened. Similarly, when a pickpocket lifts a victim's wallet, in the hospital or in any other setting, the crime committed is larceny, but not robbery. A criminal charge of robbery may be elevated from simple to aggravated robbery if a deadly weapon is brandished during the crime or if the victim suffers serious injury during the unlawful taking of the victim's property. Law and justice. The Constitution of India guarantees protection of life and personal liberty to one and all. It provides adequate safeguards to fundamental rights against arbitrary decisions. This section has detailed information about various legislations, rules and regulations, legal institutions, commissions, and tribunals. You can also get information about the Supreme Court, High Courts, subordinate courts, legal aid, profession, alternative dispute resolution, ADR, etc. Details of online services and free legal aid schemes are also available. Related documents and forms are provided in this section.